like to welcome all of you to Guildford County School's public speaking presentation. My name is Maisie and I'm our chairperson, along with our vote of thanks, Jess, and Tom, our main speaker. When faced with summing Tom up, confident, clever, and charismatic are the words that spring to mind. He is a talented musician, an enthusiastic academic, a gifted sportsman, and let's hope a captivating and confident speaker. The topic he will be enlightening you on is our very own English language. We all know the stereotypical scones and tea English that royalty is famous for, and we're also aware of the not so sophisticated Cockney rhyming slang, in which somehow stairs become apples and pears, and the telephone translates to the dog and bone. But how can one language differ so hugely? Which is the English of yesterday? And which is the English of tomorrow? Summer 2012 saw Her Majesty make a spectacular, sea-stealing entrance to the London Olympic Games on the arm of a certain secret agent. Therefore, if the Queen can skydive with James Bond, surely her use of English can still fit a mass market. So, on that note, without further ado, our main speaker, Tom.
Question. The Queen's English, or, as the Queen herself may inquire, does one agree or does one disagree with the concept? Is it simply an out-of-date idea clung onto by stuffy academics in wood-panelled libraries? Or has it simply been given a new identity and now living happily ever after in Essex? One dictionary definition of the phrase is standard Southern British English. Apparently, it has long been deemed the correct way to speak and dates back as far as the 16th century. But hang on, we haven't always had queens on the throne. Does that mean that men simply don't use the language in an acceptable way? Well, that's rather harsh. But seriously though, if we step back into the realm of Elizabeth I, we enter the land of Shakespearean sonnets. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Well, that may be in his chat-up line, but can you imagine how that would go down now? James I then came onto the throne. Oh no, a male monarch. That instantly throws the cat amongst the royal pheasants. What happens to the Queen's English now? Well, James made at least one positive decision when he decreed that the Bible should be translated from Latin into English. A shrewd move, James. The translation threw the Bible into pole position as perhaps the most influential book in the world. So, that's 1-0 to the King's English. It's okay, boys. We have redeemed ourselves. Now, fast forward to the reign of Lizzie No. 2, our present Queen. Dame Helen Mirren, who is to play Queen Elizabeth II on the West End this year, commented that it was not an easy role to perfect, as, and I quote, "She had a terribly posh voice when she was younger, and, although she isn't quite dropping the ends of her lines now, there's a tiny bit of estuary creeping in." Oh, tut-tut, Lizzie. Standards are obviously floating off down the Thames, and Essex, well, you have much to answer for. So, which queen do we use as a role model? An old queen, or a 21st century one? Or worse still, what happens if the queen turns out to be a king? Any language is defined as a way for a specific group of people to communicate using the use of symbols and conventional sounds. English has been described as a language that lurks in dark alleys, beats up other languages, and rifles through their pockets for spare vocabulary. Being an island, Britain has been prone to invasion. It is also a nation of seafarers. Both have an effect on English. Little did Bullinger know, in 60 AD when fighting off the might of the Roman army, that they would excrete a trail of Latin derivatives behind them. And that was just the start of the linguistic invasion. See if you can recognise these foreign impostors. When, just as English was licking its ubiquitous Latin wounds, German was frightening it into submission with verbal poltergeists, and, whilst Italian tastefully sprinkled our shores with linguistic confetti, in true character, French just lay back in its baguettes and said its influence was all simply a fait accompli. English gave in. However, in the 21st century, perhaps the greatest influence on our language is Ebonics, aka Black English, an import from America and a language which evolved as black slaves tried to communicate with each other and their English-speaking masters. Some educationalists see Ebonics as an impediment to black success and a threat to pure English. However, others feel that this lingo, it or Cayman, is an important part of the cultural glue of the black English community. As such, it should be acknowledged and respected. Now, we have come a long way from rock carvings and chalkboards, but modern technology has caused professors of orthography to raise disapproving eyebrows. Public enemy number one? The mobile phone, and the abbreviated language of textish. Overnight, LOL has become a part of the English language and is so commonly used that it is now part of the Oxford English Dictionary. Yes, I do know that there are some arguments against texting, stating it's a negative effect on English. But let's ponder it a little. Surely, to know to leave letters out of words, you have to know they're there in the first place. And I'm sure most young adults are intelligent enough to adapt between texting lingo and everyday conversation. I listen to rap music and I text regularly, but I'd like to hope the very fact I'm here today means all is not lost. So, back to the question. Is the notion of Queen's English a valid concept in 2013? I suggest instead that we simply aspire to communicating successfully and appropriately according to its situation. There are local accents and dialects. There are telephone voices and tones that are used to speak to mates. There are longhand essays to give to your English teacher, and there are text abbreviations to use on your phone. All have a time and place. Is it not better to be able to speak a living language to communicate, rather than speak a dated one and remain misunderstood? After all, two monologues do not make a dialogue. Just as you would not unkindly throw chilies into the pot when feeding friends with a spice intolerance, neither would you knowingly swear in front of Aunt Mabel. Spice it up or spice it down according to the palate, but at the same time be true to yourself and do not become bland. So, what is it to be? QED or do you get me? By the way, neither of the Queen's English.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Bray, now that he has concluded his speech, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Tom?
Thank you. Tom, you explained the influences on the English language, and I just wondered whether we need a national body to preserve and develop the basic English language, and if so, how that might work.
Well, in my opinion, I think that if you try to imagine English like a tree, and you try to imagine that it needs its roots, and it needs its stem, and it needs its leaves to grow and look great. So, if this body that you're talking about keeps the roots of English the same as Shakespeare did, and he created new ones, and that added to it, but now look at it, Shakespeare's language is now the roots of our everyday modern language. So if we keep the roots the same, but then water it with new words, new lingo, new everything really, to try and make it flourish, make it look extravagant to the outer world, then that'd be great. And the way it can work is that you don't want to add too many words like lol and ruffle into the Oxford English Dictionary, because soon we'll just be talking in riddles. So it's better to use new language to make the English grow, but then also don't stuff out the old stuff that actually keeps everyone being able to understand each other and everyone to be able to communicate successfully.
Thank you for your question. I would now like to invite the drooping vote of thanks sitting to my left to deliver her own speech, summing up Tom's, along with sharing her own views on our So Janice.
Thank you, Maisie. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'd all agree with me when I say that Tom here has given us plenty to think about this afternoon. As a young person, I often hear disparaging and critical remarks from, and here I apologise to our audience, shall we say the more mature members of society, who seem to think we are unable to string together a coherent sentence. Let alone deliver a 6-minute speech on the changing nature of the English language. It is fair to say, Tom, that you proved those doubts wrong. I was fascinated to see how much our language has changed over time, and how much technology has influenced this change. As a firm advocate of text speech, I despair of my mother, an English teacher, would you believe, who prides herself on painfully composed but grammatically accurate texts. Maybe now I can tell her that she's actually holding back the progress of the English language. Just maybe, in years to come, we should be remembered as the generation which finally obliterated those pesky apostrophes, which shopkeepers seem so keen on using invariably in the wrong places. Now, surely that's progress. Although I do not share your love of American rap music, Tom, and looking around me suggests it may be you in the minority here today, I did appreciate your point on the nature of our country as an island, and the huge diversity of influences which have shaped our language over the past 500 years or more. We should be proud that instead of viewing these new arrivals with fear and suspicion, we welcome them in a terrible British way, make them feel even more comfortable by adopting aspects of their language. A triumph of multiculturalism. Your answer to the question on whether we need a national body to shape our language allowed you to develop your argument further and demonstrated the complete breadth of your knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to join me in thanking Tom for his entertaining presentation.
Thank you, Jess. Our presentation is drawing to an end, so I'd like to thank Tom and Jess for their inputs today, along with the adjudicators and you, the audience. But it is the Rotarians in particular that I would like to thank. Your contributions of time and effort provide us with such valuable opportunities. So finally, whether you choose to say, parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow, in the words of Shakespeare, or today's slightly simpler version that still translates to the same thing, goodbye. Thank you.